Ready? One,
Yep.
two.
We weren't really in sync. We're good.
That's
That'll
all right.
work. That'll work.
All right. Welcome to the 86 Reason podcast, where we will begin to explore and understand these crazy people that make up the beautiful and wild restaurant industry. Matt Wampler, I am so excited to have you on as a guest because you have crossed the threshold of insanity. Starting out from what I hope to learn more about in the operations and ownership side of a restaurant, and now very deftly moving your way into the technology side, I have so much to ask you about. Thanks
Well,
for
I
joining.
didn't need 86 reasons to be here, X. I had one, and it was you, and I'm excited.
Well, dude, I am so excited to have you. So, Matt, to start, I have to ask. So, you grew up in the Midwest, right?
Yes, sir.
So, what was your first experience with restaurants? What was the? I mean, I can't imagine it was owning Jimmy John's, but I'm all ears. How did you get into this?
So I was actually doing an investment banking internship for some guys that do basically mergers and acquisitions of restaurant groups. And they had worked on the Jimmy John's deal, and it got me kind of like some exposure into it. And at the end of the internship, they offered me a job, but the owner was like, I will back you to go open up a Jimmy John's. And so like, this is junior year, that summer after your junior year of college. I went back and kind of grinded on it and was like, I'm an ADD dyslexic kid. I don't want to go sit in a cubicle. Restaurants sound great. So I started kind of grinding on Jimmy John's and ended up finding one that was for sale for pennies on the dollar because all the smart people said, this is a train wreck. Why would you ever want to buy this Jimmy John's? And so, it was up for sale. And I went back to the investment banker guy and said, hey, I think I could do this one. He said, do it without me. You can do it without my financing. Do it on your own.
Oh, what a bait and switch. What a bait and switch.
Well, I think he might have just been happy not to have me working at the investment bank. So it's no. But yeah, no, that's how I found the Jimmy John's and like managed to scrape together the money to go take over.
And so where was this? I mean, like, I can imagine there were a million lessons learned just in that first, like making the acquisition. Where was it? Are you going to be inheriting all kinds of weird like rent, like cam fees? And like, how did that go? How was the conversation? How'd you even find this franchise?
Yeah, coming through and finding the franchise, all that. I still remember the moment that I went to go do due diligence and I got to like see the restaurant. And my college girlfriend who was at FSU, I was at Iowa, came and met me. So it was our romantic weekend. We stayed at the nicest hotel in town, which was the Quality Inn, for $70 a night. The nicest restaurant in town was the Applebee's. Wow. This is College Park, Maryland, So I remember that purely being like a college kid and thinking, oh my gosh, like I might actually take over this business. And then fast forward, I mean, the guy had let it go to the ground, over the 3 months while we were negotiating. So you walk in on day one with no idea what you're doing, and the grease trap is literally overflowing. Like the moment you walk in, that's all you smell. The air conditioning had been out for a couple months. This is in DC. So like it is 110 degrees in the kitchen, smells. They had ice buckets on top of the cold table compressors to keep them from overheating. I mean, it was
a mess.
It was a mess. It was a shit show. I get to curse on your show.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I always say, if you've seen the show The Bear, I turned the first episode off the first 3 times I watched it because like it was PTSD. It's like, oh my gosh, this was my life. Except I wasn't a Michelin star chef. I was a semi-delinquent college kid.
Dude, but when you walk into a mess like that, did you really even have because that was your first restaurant experience, was owning a Jimmy John's?
Yeah, that was it.
Dude, so how do you even know what to look for?
You don't, which is why you sign the deal and don't realize how many things are wrong.
And okay, so this, I can only imagine the happiness of this franchisee who like dumped this, this probably an albatross for him onto you. So like, what was it like trying to retain? Did you have staff that stuck around? Were there people in there that like showed you the ropes? Like how was it impossible to kind of integrate? Like tell me about.
Nobody was happy with this situation because the owner is an absentee owner who's got his nephew running it. So when the transaction kind of closes, they realize how bad it was and how much money they had lost. And so like nobody's happy in this situation.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, look, you go in, I mean, you're 20, 21. You just signed personal guarantees for everything.
That's wild.
So like, you're going to go bankrupt or you're going to make this work. So there aren't a whole lot of options. There were 4 employees that stuck around.
Okay.
And like,
out of how many?
Oh, no. I mean, like there were 4 employees.
In the whole place?
The whole place.
So like one person calls out and that's like a third of your manpower.
Yeah, they quit. That's like, you lose a quarter of your staff. Who wants to work in a kitchen that's 110 degrees with a broken AC and grease trap overflowing?
Dude, and you guys don't fry stuff at a Jimmy John's, right? Or do you?
No.
So how do you have an overflowing grease trap and not have, I mean, there's, it's just.
It's one of those. But I do remember, of the people that stuck around, I had a general manager, or the guy that was the general manager stayed on as the assistant manager.
Okay.
And I was taking over as general manager.
Okay, so you were going to run that thing and be in there every day. Okay. Yeah.
So at Jimmy John's, we have basically 12-hour shifts because it's a campus store. Okay. So like morning, you get in your 6 a.m. to like 6 p.m. And then the night guy comes in at 5 p.m. and he's there till like 5 a.m. So it's like 23, 24 hours a day.
What?
So you have 14.
So you've literally got people in the operation 24/7?
Basically, because you close it like it's campus store. You close at like 2:30. You got to shut down. You got to clean up, all that kind of stuff. You got to start doing prep the next day. And I'm maybe 3 weeks in. It's it's kind of a disaster, right? School started. You're understaffed, and that assistant manager saw his opportunities. Like, look, Matt, if you don't double my salary, I'm going to walk tonight. Oh, mind you, I'm like, I guess I'm 22. I'm 22. I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm like, I'm not going to be beholden to this guy. And he's also not a very good manager, but I'm in a tight spot. So I said, like, look, I can't do that. Also, we're broke, so I couldn't do it. But tough options. And so he left. And so I legitimately had to work 10 of the 14 management shifts. So like 120 hours a week, management hours, like that means 3 days a week. I'm literally 24-hour shifts. I lost 30 pounds in the first 30 days.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Just literally like rolling up aprons and using them as a pillow to sleep on the desk.
Good thing you were making hand over fist money, right?
Just hemorrhaging money.
Oh my God, dude. So I had a similar experience because I opened a restaurant as well at a very young age, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Bar, liquor licenses, PGs. PG is it's not point guard. It is the end of your life. I know exactly what you're talking about. And how much do you think you learned from that just in terms of like how to share? I mean, who could you talk to about like, I don't know if I'm making payroll. Like, how did you manage all this stuff just from like an emotional level?
Let's circle back to that. I want to hear about your first restaurant because I didn't know you got into it at 22 and you had a bar, which, I'm just jealous of.
Well, yeah, because you think you're going to make all this money, right? So, dude, I opened up a restaurant in Rock.
By the way, at 22, you don't think you're going to make all this money.
Oh, dude. And the worst part about it, Matt, is that a guest. So I was running this fancy casino restaurant called Bobby Flay Steak down in the Borgata. And it was so busy. It was so, and I took for granted all of the infrastructure around me. I mean, there's people at the dock that are receiving your orders. There's people in accounting that are watching every single penny you spend. You've got, too many applications for staff. And it's like, you grow delusional. And I'll never forget this, Lawrence Kretschmer. Thank you so much for, so this guy, the partner in the restaurant, Lawrence Kretschmer, when he found that I was going to go open my restaurant, he sat me down and he goes, well, your life just changed and it's about to get worse. And I'm like, no way. No way. I'm a master of my own domain.
That's great. That's a good line, by the way. I'm stealing that line at some point.
Dude, well, so, you have this like conflated view of what you bring to the table and how you're going to affect operations and how you're going to run the best restaurant ever and you're going to connect with the community and all this stuff. And dude, so we had a guest that was in the restaurant like once a week. Very nice guy. Never forget him. He was a lawyer that would always entertain in the steakhouse. And he came in and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about opening this restaurant. You're very successful. What do you think about it? And his response was, whatever seed money you need to get going, I got you. And not only this, I'm going to give you the most important thing you need. He pulls out from his suit jacket a copy of The Secret. Did you ever read The Secret?
I didn't read The Secret, but I'm captivated by this guy who's just got it in his coat pocket.
Dude, so he gives me this book, and I ended up watching the movie because the movie came out shortly thereafter, and it's essentially about the law of attraction, right? What you put out into the universe is essentially what comes back to you and all this stuff. And it had my mind racing, like the signs, you know what I mean? Like this guy's telling me I'm supposed to do this. And, like everything that you look for just all of a sudden is like, that's another sign, right? I'm like, oh my God, somebody just dropped a drink. That means they don't want to drink here. The universe is telling me to open a bar. Anyway.
Yeah.
Dude, you go nuts, right? And obviously, I think the 20s, Gary Vaynerchuk always says, make mistakes in your 20s. A lot of people say, make mistakes in your 20s, right? So I definitely...
that basically means open a restaurant in your 20s.
Well, it's the right time to get over the financial constraints that will hamstring you for the rest of your life. So, yeah, man, I opened this spot and I will tell you, so it took months and months to get going and there's a lot of backstory, but I knew in the first night, we were slammed. People from the whole town came in and the competing restaurants came in and dude, the restaurant was humming and I had a great staff because a lot of them came with me from Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And dude, I was like, I can't wait to look at the fucking numbers. Let me see the POS. Gimme. And we I pop it open and I look and I was like, what? We just got our asses handed to us and we just barely were scraping $3,000 in sales. Yeah. And by my pro forma numbers, which obviously is the greatest work of fiction that you'll ever create, right?
Hey, you said pro forma numbers. I'm impressed.
Dude, we had it all, right? And this is back in like 2005 when you could barely get like a Yahoo to give you like a little bit of a return on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And dude, in that night, I was like, we just got our asses kicked. Everybody's like out back, like on the verge of like a breakdown, an emotional breakdown. And we just barely did 3,000. And my pro forma was like, we break even at $7,000. And I'm like, I don't know how. In that night, dude, I was like, this is never going to work. And I just remember going home that first service with a completely, like life had slapped me right in the face. I think we had like $2,000 in the bank in the operating account. And that was the very beginning of a deep love affair with Parliament Lights. But anyway, it was tough, dude. And I can very much connect with, I don't know how, listen, I didn't talk to anybody because my girlfriend at the time, she was very against me making this move. And I just did it anyway because, I know better than everybody, obviously.
Hashtag 22.
Hashtag 22. And there was a moment, man, where I remember just like a few weeks in, it was like nobody showed up to the restaurant. Nobody. Like I think we did $0 in revenue. And I just remember being like, this was the largest mistake of my life. And I mean, I don't know how I made it through. So I want to know how you made it through. So anyway, coming back full circle.
It's the same deal, right? Like everybody has that moment. If you're going to own a restaurant, own a business in general, but restaurants in particular. I remember I had, so there was some like error in my franchise agreement, or the series of franchise agreements they'd sent out that year, that they basically sent a letter that said, like, you can get out of your franchise agreement. Like, because they're like, who's going to turn back their franchise agreement? They've signed a lease, So
Yeah.
I'm sitting there at like 4:30 in the morning after a 24-hour shift, and like
Smelling
half,
like freshly sliced raw onion for the
yeah,
180th straight day.
covered in roast beef, like,
Yeah.
it's just disgusting. And I signed this thing. I'm like, I don't think I can make it.
Oh
Like, I
man.
really don't think I can make it. And I put it in the top part of the safe and then promptly fell asleep at the desk. I woke up
Oh.
2 hours later to start prep. Never remembered any of that because, you're quasi delusional. And 9 months later, I kid you not, I was cleaning out the safe and I found that letter, and I'd forgotten all about it. And we turned the thing around and it was profitable. And I literally framed that. It's literally like framed in my office. Like, it
Oh,
was like you just that close to tapping out.
geez, man. And so looking on that experience, because you ended up opening more, like, tell me how how did you get it profitable, first off?
Oh, I mean, like, you're young, when you're old, you work smart. When you're young, you work hard.
Yeah.
You threw time and energy at it. Plus,
Yeah.
again, your other option is bankruptcy. So
Yeah.
like, you're working 24/7 as the owner operator, is greeting every customer, ensuring everything's, working properly. And Jimmy John's gave me the playbook. It's not like I had to learn how to, systemize a restaurant operation. I just needed to follow their instructions. So I literally just had to follow instructions and execute, and just did that day in and day out. And slowly but
And it
surely,
worked.
yeah, but you get the feel. You start to
Okay.
build the team, right? Like,
Okay.
people rally behind you. They see that you're sleeping in the back of the store. Like, how can I help? How can I manage the shift for you and give you a night off? And, there's something magical about being like brothers in arms. Like, you've got your team around you. Things are going in the right direction. It was a magical experience. And then I went and pulled the Xavier and opened up my second restaurant that opened up at like a quarter of what it should have. And that's a whole nother thing.
That brothers in arm things that you're talking about, that's called a trauma bond. And
Trauma bond.
that's what everybody, I think, experiences in the restaurant industry. And it's essentially that we're all gonna die or we're all gonna live together. And today we choose life.
I had probably the most quintessential 22-year-old response. My accountants basically said, Matt, you're going to go bankrupt if you don't run better labor or this or that. But I was dead set. I mean, the store's doing like 400,000 a year when I got there. Like, I wanted to get to $1 million in my first year.
Okay.
Like, I sent an email back to him. It's like, I am literally going to get this store to do $1 million or we'll go bankrupt. Like, that's what's going to happen. They thought I was insane.
Did you make it?
Depends on how you count the numbers. Yes, I think we made it. It was one of those wonderful 53-week years.
Perfect.
So like, yeah, we made it by like $6,000. But like, if you did it by the calendar year, we were short by 2. But either way, we got there.
I love that. And so I'm sure you can remember those people that were doing their best to either overtly or, like diplomatically tell you that this was a really bad idea. Did you have any people like that in your life?
No, everyone was telling me it was a good idea.
What?
And they're like, no, just keep working hard, Matt. Like, you'll make it happen.
Oh my God, dude. So listen, I had a few people in my life say, dude, are you fucking serious? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, you're 22 and you're going to open a restaurant across the country? And I'm like, yeah. And dude, all those people those were the people that were like, when I couldn't buy chicken wings, I was like,
I'm sorry, you had people in your life outside of the restaurant once you took over?
I mean, they were probably people from the restaurant industry that just didn't happen to be in that restaurant that I was working in.
Yeah, I didn't have any. I literally lived within my 4 walls. Like, the one of the many mistakes I made was I never got out and got any perspective on how other people ran restaurants. I should have spent a whole lot more time asking questions. I literally just lived in my four walls, looked at my daily systems and procedures that Jimmy John's had given me as the Bible, and like that was it.
And so when you were finally into a place of profitability, what was
I opened another restaurant.
that and it went swimmingly, no?
Of course, they always do.
They always do.
No, so you ready for this one? I go open the second restaurant.
Okay.
You're dealing with.
Did you take over from an existing franchise, or is it brand
full
new?
Built, right?
Oof.
It was the most fun I'd ever had. Right?
It was.
I loved building the restaurant, the architects, the contractors, all this stuff. But the county's so freaking slow on permits.
Oh.
Right? Like, so my lease had gotten to the point where like I was gonna have to start paying on the lease. And I didn't have the money to pay on the lease. Right? And we're hurrying along, we're trying to get the permits done. We go through our final walkthrough with the county. And they're like, yeah, we made a mistake when we approved the plans. We're going to need you to move your kitchen wall back so that we can like move your bathroom, door or something. And I'm like,
dude, that's thousands and thousands of dollars and like weeks.
And weeks. And I think, yeah, we would have to move the kitchen back. Like it wasn't even a rational option. And it was only like 900 square foot space. So it's not like there's a lot of room. So like we were packing a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back and forth and like, they're like, no. And so I told the contractor told me, he's like, I'm going to go over to the county. We're going to try and get this resolved. So like, I'm coming. Like, and I remember calling my wife and I'm like, look, honey, here's the deal. We don't have the money to pay for this. Like this needs to open. I am literally going to either get them to change this or they're going to throw me in prison. I'm not walking out of there unless it's in handcuffs or they give
or with the permit.
I just remember, like, again, 23 years old, right? Like, that's how you viewed the world. And literally it got to the point where they were escorting me out by security and I'm yelling, and the director finally came out and was like, what the hell is going on in here? And I'm like, Manish, like, I'm the guy who's been emailing you constantly. Like, I'm going to go under, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, send a new person out there tomorrow. Like, don't worry about it. But like that close, the amount of times it almost all goes to hell. Like, and if you don't do that and you just follow the, like, checking the box, going through it, like, it doesn't end up well.
Jeez, dude. So wherever his name was Manish?
I would say it was not Manish. Different name.
I was just going to give him a big shout out and let him know that he made somebody's life a little bit brighter that day. But anyway, we'll bleep those out. Anyway. All right. So how long was it before you opened your 2 stores? Did you open more than that or did you keep it there?
Yeah. I ended up with 5.
You ended up with 5, dude?
Yeah.
So how many years did you give to Jimmy John's? I mean, I feel like that's got a life sentence. Each restaurant at least takes 10 years off your life. So
yeah, basically.
Did you do all brand new builds? Like, what did you learn along the way?
I think there's like a formula there. I think that in your 20s, it maybe only takes off like a year or 2 of your life.
Understood.
Your 30s, it probably there's got to be like a force multiplier.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, like an exponential effect based off of your years.
Yeah, at 20, you can literally just do anything.
Right. It's true. You could sleep in the restaurant and then decide that it's a good idea to open 5 more.
Yeah. But then you wake up and you're almost 30 and you've got a wife and kids and like, you're like, maybe I should think about doing something else or like take a pause. And that was where I found myself. That and the fact that they jacked minimum wage by 73%. And so that also played an impact.
How does your current appreciation for restaurant ownership now apply to how you go out to eat? Like when you go out,
I don't.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
You go. You go.
No, I was gonna say, because you ever like look at a restaurant owner and you could just read it on his face, like every day is his last day, but he still shows up. You ever like?
So I actually don't have as much of appreciation for restaurant owners, but general managers,
Okay.
it's hard to walk into a restaurant and not just immediately identify what's going on with who, right? And what kind of operation is this?
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane, dude. Okay, so when did you decide you're out? You had your kid, you had a couple kiddos, and was your wife also just like, hey, we need out of here? How did that decision go?
You know what? It really went like this. So I was thinking about it. I applied to MBA schools and Duke let me in. Now, Xavier,
That's a great school, bro.
great school.
Great
I
school.
put up a 1.98
I think it's called, is that Fuqua?
Yes, Fuqua. Yes,
Okay.
you got it. Look at that.
Okay.
I put up a 1.98 at the University of Iowa one semester. I was not a good student. So the fact that Duke let me in, put it this way. My mom told my high school English teacher that I got into Duke, and she literally started crying. She's like, oh my gosh. She didn't know if I was ever going to amount to anything because I literally couldn't read in high school. So that helped. That was the draw.
Okay.
So it's we're going to sell them. I'm going to go back and get my MBA. I always thought I'd actually get back into Jimmy John's and just do it in a different city. But
Okay.
you kind of go out there and you open up that perspective.
Okay.
And for me, at least, I loved everything that wasn't in the playbook, right? The 2%, 5% of things that you got to go figure out.
Mm.
And, franchising, the reason I was successful was I just had to execute the playbook,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I kind of had this realization, man, if I could go out there and do a job where maybe 50% of it was creative problem solving, that'd be pretty awesome. And that led me to do the one non-restaurant thing I did, and that was take a corporate job in medical devices. Hated every second of it. Nothing we need to talk about there.
Did you learn something from it, like sales process or infrastructure, or how long did you last in that?
2 years.
That's
You know
a long
what I
time.
learned?
Yeah.
You know what I learned? People outside of restaurants don't know how to manage people.
Interesting take.
Think about it, right? If you go take a white collar job, you're probably moving there. You're putting on your resume. Your network all knows. You can't get fired because how are you going to get hired in another job? You've got a lot at stake.
Sure.
And so, it's easy for them to just abuse those employees, right? I don't need to manage you well. Whereas in a restaurant, if you manage me incorrectly, if you treat me poorly,
I'm fucking out.
Fuck you and take my apron off, walk out. Maybe take a couple bottles of wine.
Did that ever happen to you? Did you ever have the grand exit?
Oh, totally.
Oh, gosh. And how many times that happened to you?
Countless.
Countless?
Countless.
Oh, man.
Xavier, I got stories for days. I got guys that, literally waited for me out front of my house.
What?
People set fire to my manager's mom's house. You name it.
And they say Jimmy John's doesn't have passion. Bro, I've never had any. I did have a dishwasher wait for me at the end of a shift because I fired him. And I did have him wait for me and walk me to the garage, and I had to calmly talk him down as I told him I would get his check to him by tomorrow so he wouldn't kick the shit out of me. But I've never had anybody come up to my house.
Oh, it was partially on me. You know those situations where what the most hurtful thing to do would be. And for this person who really had pissed me off, he's a bike delivery driver. He's riding in the middle of the street with no helmet on and no hands on the handlebars. It's I caught him 3 times, and this was in a single day, and it was the 3rd time of the day. And yeah, I did the implied that he didn't really matter that much. This is no sweat off my back.
If you die.
No, not the dying thing. But I don't know. It was a bad day. And anyhow, he waited for me out front and followed me home. And
did he wear a bike helmet to kick your ass?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Okay, so did you go to Duke, by the way?
Yeah. They let me in. They gave me a degree and everything.
Bro,
You know the
impressive.
hardest part about that was I had to give them my Iowa degree, and I, for a hot second, wasn't sure I actually graduated. Like, because I never got the diploma and I didn't walk for graduation. And like, I had to go try and find it. I'm like, shit, there's a chance. Like, maybe I didn't pass that one course. And like,
You're like, maybe that dream was right? Because I have dreams all the time about failing high school. All the time.
yeah,
I don't know why. Okay. But you did. You did graduate. According to, you made it, bro. You got a Duke MBA?
let's get a little Freudian. Like, why do you have dreams about failing high school?
Because my senior year, I really didn't. I let go. I was just like, I don't know what was going on with me. I think I was working in restaurants. I was making server money back then, which was essentially I was making more than I was working at a steakhouse and I was probably making more than the teachers. And I remember just being like, what am I doing here? Anyway, I don't want to get into the rebellious X years, but I certainly can identify. Okay. All right. So then you go into medical devices. When did this even more insane idea of yours to get into restaurant tech click for you? Because this is the transition I've been waiting for. Because boy, oh boy, if you think running a restaurant is tough, I can't wait to get into this. All right, so you're doing medical device sales. A small part of you dies. You realize how bad the management
My
is.
wife loved that, by the way. She enjoyed the death of me. She was like, you're working 9 to 5. You're here on the weekends. You make dinner at night. Like, I don't care if you lost part of your soul. This is pretty darn nice.
Jeez. And then, so, dude, but did you have this idea before you left that job? Like, how did ClearCOGS happen?
Idle hands. No, it's the same story you're going to hear a lot from people. You know, COVID hits.
Okay.
Medical devices, they end up just basically doing a restructuring and laying off all of the innovation directors. And so like, I'm out. So I've got some free time. And so first thing I went to go do, I always liked numbers. I liked Excel. I was good at math. Like, I wanted to learn to code. So I started learning to code, and I think it was like an online course. I got through 6 of the modules, 6 of the 9, and I'd already started a data analytics consulting company because I'm like, this stuff's amazing. Like, this could change everything. I really liked the idea of doing optimized pricing, which your demand elasticity curve, based on your historic price changes and, figuring out. Anyhow, once you have been from restaurants and it's scarred you deeply, you always it always drags you back, right?
It hurts so good.
It hurts so good. And so I'm always looking at this code. I'm like, oh, think of what I could have done with this in the restaurant. And then every restaurateur, I immediately went and found people that were better than me at it. And so I dragged in my now co-founder. I'm like, I got this idea. Let's start talking about it. And I give him a lot of the credit. We went and talked to maybe 50 restaurants, brands, and had that same kind of discovery conversation. What do you need? Why do you need it? Why? And at the end of every conversation, it came down to the same thing. I don't know who's going to walk into my restaurant tomorrow. And because I don't know, I don't really make good decisions on what to order, who to staff, what to prep. And we're like, that we can do. And so we did it.
So how far along are you into this journey? When did ClearCOGS start?
2022. 2 guys in the garage just trying to figure out
how many ribs to put on a sheet tray.
Exactly. It was really more like us just running my cousin out of bread, trying to figure out how to make it work.
Oh, because this is a cousin who's also in the Jimmy John's world?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do you remember your first customer? You don't have to tell me who it is, but do you remember your first customer who actually signed up and paid you?
I do. And we screwed it up royally.
Oh.
And it was a great customer. And
really?
We were 6 weeks in and had no idea what we were doing.
Oh.
And I wish I could have that opportunity again today, because we would have crushed it.
Listen, should we get the 86 Reason community on this?
No, I think that I
Listen, I'll blanket email that motherfucker right now, or motherfucker S, whoever it is.
Well, I'll say this. We're on good terms. There's not a
Good.
single person that we've ever worked with, and especially even in the early years when things didn't work out, that didn't, we still don't have a wonderful relationship with. So no
No ill
harm.
will, of course, of course. So, what for you up until now do you think has been the hardest part to cope with in terms of your ClearCOGS journey? Has it been, communicating with clients, getting them to use it, having them understand how it works, communicating with your tech team? Like, what is it that today is like, do you feel as the co-founder of a restaurant tech company, that's the hardest thing to deal with?
I love having people over for dinner. Like, I love cooking. Like it's a passion, right?
Okay.
And I so want you to have a great meal. Like, truly, like from the bottom of my heart.
Maddie, before we get deeper, what do you like to make? What's like your go-to dish? Like
So it's my daughter's birthday today.
oh,
We're
what's your
making
daughter's
steak.
birthday? I mean, what's your daughter's name?
Addison. Addie.
Happy birthday, Addie.
Shout out to Addie. I think that's her first podcast shout out.
Hell yeah. I'm honored. So what are you making for Addie tonight?
We're doing steak and we're doing lamb chops because literally I buy whatever's on sale. So I happened to be at the grocery store and like they had 2 steaks on sale and they had a rack of lamb that was on sale. I'm like, like the reduced needs to be sold today kind of sale. Yeah.
Addie, my love, this doesn't mean that your dad thinks you're on sale. He would certainly shell out for the A5 Kobe. He's just waiting for that first contract that he messed up to come back, but he's going to celebrate with some Kobe beef for you when that comes back, all right? Addie, next birthday's going to be a different birthday.
It doesn't make me, I don't want to be proud or concerned. My kids have really good taste in food as a result. So like, I think we were at Outback Steakhouse or Texas Roadhouse. They love Texas Roadhouse. Mm-hmm. And like they got the kids steak that was sirloin and like I had the ribeye and like they literally had a bite. They're like, Dad, the steak's not right. And then they had a bite of mine. They're like, that's the steak I want. Like I'm gonna need to eat more of that. We got Wagyu once because it was on sale. And like my youngest is like 6, is like, we need to eat more of this.
All you're doing is ensuring that the choosing of a future partner is qualified by high quality cooking and ingredients. So you're doing a service.
I think I'm raising pretentious children. It's going to be a problem. I literally had one of my youngest's, one of the dads that I'm friends with. And he's like, I got to tell you a story. I had your daughter over. I asked if they wanted lemonade. And he's like, they said, yes. I went and got the lemonade and I poured it out of the gallon thing. And your daughter's like, huh, you get it out of the jug? He's like, well, what do you do at home? It's like, well, my dad uses fresh lemons and like, squeezes the lemons for the lemonade. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, we use the jug. She's like, yeah, we have a lemon tree. He usually picks the lemons from our lemon tree and then makes them from that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm creating monsters.
I love those kinds of monsters. And I love that you have a lemon tree and hopefully I get invited to one of these dinners. So anyway, let's go back to you want everybody to have a good meal.
So I want everyone to have a good meal. Technology is limitless in its possibilities.
I agree.
We have the capability of doing anything, right? And I so want to make them whatever it is that they want. But we're not a custom dev shop, right? So like there's constraints. And there's always this, push and pull from the developers of like what we can do and what sacrifices we have to make and what the customer wants. And like, just like serving a great meal, like that you put your heart and soul into. I don't want to give you a half-assed product that's not really what you want. So, you got to build the company and you also want to take care of the customers. And sometimes it's a weird mismatch. That's the thing I struggle with most. What about you? I think outside of not having a wine cellar that's, just directly behind you at all times.
That would be so sick, dude. Can technology do that?
You know what? Who knows?
Maybe. I think the hardest part for me, Matt, was trying to understand why people wouldn't engage with the platform. And
Yeah.
you build all this great stuff, and ultimately, of course, the goal is to make everyone's lives easier, whether it's CFO, controller, the restaurant chef, manager. And I used to really struggle with, okay, they signed up, they've been on the platform for 2 weeks, we've done all the trainings, there's no action in the site. And I used to struggle with, like, do I have to fucking go in there? Do I have to show up and show them how to scan an invoice? Do I have to explain to them why it's a good idea to have your invoices on the cloud? It just was like, it was this realization, and I was a part of this for many years, of what assholes restaurant people can be. And I'm sorry, like, I'm not here to talk shit on the industry. I love the industry. I also hate it, but I love it. But I had a really hard time coping with why my friends wouldn't recommend me to their administrative people. I had a hard time with, like, yo, can you introduce me to the owner? And I had a lot of pushback. And now listen, I had friends along the way that helped. I had people along the way that used the platform and gave me feedback. I had incredible people that made me incredible intros. But by and large, that whole direct community of people I had worked with were very hard to shift their perspective from me being a compatriot to now me being a salesperson. And I learned very quickly that nobody wants to be sold. Nobody
No.
wants to take a call about why my thing is so great and why you should use it. And what I thought would be our first leg into the industry actually became like a bottomless trough of pain and suffering, because very few people actually understood what we were trying to do, and very few people helped. And it was very, very eye-opening that it wasn't going to be easy from the beginning. And
It's
that
easy. It's easy to forget just how stressed out, like bandwidth, like fried, cracked out, like you are trying to run restaurants.
it
And then it's
is.
like you go try and sell to them, and it's like you seem to be like a little all over the place today. Like we're here to talk about back of house software or AP automation.
Dude, yeah. And listen, I mean, it's not beyond me that I think part of what you do as well, it's not glamorous, and it's not the reason that people are in the positions they're in. I mean,
It's
so often.
everything everyone hates. No one likes
Correct.
invoices. Like,
Nobody.
no, do you want to come talk about my colonoscopy for an hour? Like, this is just not something that people want to talk about. And by the way, the thing that you struggle with. So Chef Will runs implementation. He was like executive chef for Jose Andres for a number of years before coming over to us. He's like, I remember him maybe 3 months in, asking him how things going. He's like, I really struggle that I can't just go in there and tell them what to do. He's like, I'm used to walking in and everyone being, yes, chef, no chef. Like what I say goes. And it's like, I'm dealing with some okay-ish restaurant
Yeah.
manager that's kind of not paying attention, and I can't get him to click a button.
Dude, and it's, I think the amount of empathy that you have for restaurant people, you lose it sometimes because you forget how hard the struggle is. And obviously there's 1,000 things that they're worried about that are just literally trying to get through their day. They're
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? I don't need a new software. I don't need a new count sheet. I don't need something else to go figure out how to use. I just need to get through today, make sure I have enough stuff prepped for tomorrow. And I really hope our sous chef shows up tomorrow morning so I don't have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of that. And so, okay. So you got your platform going, you got your team members together. What do you think up until now has been, if you were going to redo this, what's like something, because I think technology is becoming has a lesser barrier of entry than ever. And I think a lot more people are interested in doing things to complement the industry. So putting your hat on as now a former restaurant owner that of course is doing some very good things on restaurant technology, what would be like something that you think an aspiring restaurant tech co-founder or founder should pay attention to before they start to go full force or put too much money in? Like, what's something that for you would be, hey, okay, take a look at this before you get too into it?
I'd probably give them the advice, your life just got a lot worse. And then I'd like to think that at this point I'd be successful enough that I could pull out the secret from my coat jack pocket and hand it to them.
It's so true, dude.
No, I mean, I think in sincerity, I would have gone out and probably tried to build the software with the people that were going to be the customers. Like literally, like, you know how you've like when you're early, like pet projects, you're kind of tweaking this and sending it to people, right? Like I would almost develop it with people, like external that I'm not even selling it to, right? More because I think we did more of a kind of mapped out, like, how is this a scalable business? You know, how is this going to be a venture backable, scalable thing? And, you forget, throw the business model away. It comes down to relationships, right? Who's rooting for you? Who wants you to succeed? Who are you listening to? I would have spent a lot more time on that.
Interesting.
How about you?
I think it all in this industry, restaurants specifically, and I don't know how to get around this. And you've honestly, Matt, been a very big inspiration to me in getting out there more. But I think you've really got to be in love with your community, and that's whether you're opening a restaurant or you're doing a tech platform or you're trying to do anything in business. I mean, I feel like you've got to live and die by the ecosystem and the people that make it special, because ultimately, like, it's resilience, I think, that wins. It's not always the best idea and it's not always the best execution. It's being willing to go right back into that shit trough and take another big bite of that turd and just keep on churning and hoping that you figure it out. And if you don't love who you're around, it makes it very difficult to stick with it.
If you don't love the process, you have to find joy in doing. Yeah. Find excitement, because like there's no end.
There really isn't. And
X, do you still view yourself as a restaurant person, or do you view yourself as a technology person?
I don't think I'll ever see myself as a tech person, honestly, Matt.
So I had that same conversation with Brandon from Byte on my podcast last week.
Okay.
And legitimately,
by the way, plug your podcast. What's your podcast called so everybody knows about it?
Restaurant AI Podcast.
Okay. Restaurant AI.
Very podcast. SEO friendly.
It certainly is.
But like he started in restaurants, but he went to like Avero and then Resi and then started Byte. So like he's been on the tech side for a while. And I'm like, do you still view yourself as a restaurant person? Because like I view myself as a restaurant person that's kind of posing as a technology person right now. And he's like, no, like you always do. And I don't know what it is about that, but like,
I think a lot of it, Matt, and maybe this goes back to that earlier point that I was talking about as
trauma.
That those compatriots, like for example. I remember there was somebody I worked with for a long time that like I helped along to become from like a junior manager to an AGM, and then helped them a lot to understand wine. And they eventually took over restaurants as GM and director of ops. And I remember going to them and saying, yo, I'd really love an intro to the group you work with, because they grew in their career. And I was certainly engaged and wanted to see them evolve and grow. And he didn't even write me back. And
and that's hard.
Well, dude, I think the lesson for me was,
be a better manager, be a better leader, be more likable.
I think
I'm giving you a hard time.
It's those first impression things. It's like when you meet me and I'm a busboy, or you meet me and I'm a floor manager at your restaurant group, you don't necessarily want to view me as something else. Like, you're not a tech co-founder. You're that kid that used to do inventory at my restaurant. And I don't want to buy anything you're selling because you were just a little shithead that worked at my store. You know what I mean? Like, crossing that barrier is very difficult. And like, that first restaurant group I ever had a serious position in, the Chop House, love that place, still go there all the time. It took me 10 years to sell them on what I was doing. And when it finally happened, it was like this aha moment, like, man, you really got to stick with it. And you really got to like ensure that you've got enough. I don't know if it's ego or what it is, dude, but you've got to like, you got to be willing to wake up every day and hit your head against the wall again and again and again until you figure it out. You go to like a different little brick that has a little crack in it or something, you know? But something I've been really that I've been so impressed by, Matt, is just how great of a marketer you are and how great you are at building community. And I wonder, like, now as your position evolves with ClearCOGS, and you've obviously gotten a chance to talk a lot about how AI and restaurants are evolving together. Like, what really do you feel like is going to be that turning point where everybody within the system, like a CFO, controller, a product, a product sourcing person, like, when is everyone going to benefit from AI, and when do you think it's going to stop being like a scary thing for like the day-to-day person? Like, when will it affect the day-to-day person?
Well, everything's changing really quickly, so it's just gonna be scary for a little while.
Yeah.
But it's gonna happen, and there's not a more interesting place for it to happen than restaurants. I mean, one of the problems that we have as an industry is how diverse restaurants are, from the cuisine, to the, everything, right? So there is not one POS that's perfect for every restaurant. I'm sure there's like one point of sale system that every car dealership could use. They're all kind of the same, selling cars. But restaurants are different. Pizza concepts are different. Pizza concepts that have lots of units are different than one with one unit, right? So you end up with this fragmented tech stack out of necessity. And then it's really hard to make it work in a way that I can have 8 random different combinations of technologies, and they all need to work together. Because for that to happen, like, that one company needs to be able to work with another 100, right? It just gets really complex. The reason I bring all of this up is that from just unifying technology, that's what AI is really good at, right? We used to live in a world where to tie technologies together required someone like manually to type out code that has to be perfect. And this data is messy and that data is messy, and it breaks constantly. AI can just do that. So all of a sudden our technologies work, right? So I can have the right technology for my individual, company, and it works. Second thing is this: no one gets into this business to handle the business side, to manage your permits, to pay your bills, to keep the Excel spreadsheets up to date, or do inventory. Like, this is the people business, right? The people serving people, managing people, like, it's hospitality. And the people that are great with people are often not great with numbers. But as an industry today, the people who win are good with numbers. McDonald's doesn't have the best burger, but man, they run the best business. It's repeatable, right? AI levels that playing field, right? It is good at numbers. It's good at task management. It's good at reading your invoice and pulling the numbers off and automatically updating them. I mean, shit, Xavier, we have cars driving themselves because of AI.
Yeah.
We have rocket engines that literally will go take them up in outer space and then they will land themselves autonomously on a launch pad. We can figure this out for restaurants. to tell them how much to prep and to process their invoice. This is not rocket science, literally, right? And I think it's going to happen in the next couple of years. And I think we're going to be left with a industry that's for years managed with inefficiency and low profit margin and staff being stressed out to a far less reactive, far more proactive, numbers driven, business driven. I just ultimately think we're going to have an industry that's more sustainable.
I love to hear that. And how's it go? Your lips, your words to God's ears, mouth, whatever.
Your lips to God's ears. I don't know. It's one of those.
One of those.
We didn't do great in high school.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure that was in there.
You went to Duke,
why my English teacher was crying.
You went to Duke, all right? I'm pretty sure you might be the only Duke MBA from your high school. I want to.
True story. I went into high school with a 3rd grade reading level, like straight up. Literally, I was severely dyslexic, could not read. And
that's incredible, dude.
My grandfather had taught at Duke. He was the smart professor he won. And so I went and interviewed for college. I walked in, the person sits me down and they say, first question, no joke, what have you done to change the world? And I'm like 16. I walked out, my dad had taken me like, yeah, I'm not going to this school. Like, no chance.
You're like, well, I took a failing Jimmy John's. Future me took a failing Jimmy John's off the hand of a man that was about to go suicide, and I actually fixed it up and made it profitable. So fed some sandwiches to the future of America.
Xavier, you should go back and get your MBA from a fancy school. You would have so much fun. Like you'd have like management professors or these, CEO coaches that deal with all the Fortune 500 people come in and they'd be like, it's all about being a self-actualized leader. And like, yeah, I got a question. I've met a lot of people that have built billion-dollar brands. They are not self-actualized leaders. Most of them are quasi-sociopathic, manipulative, and Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, we can go through the list.
Sure can.
I would think we'd have a lot more self-actualized leaders if that really is the best way to be successful.
I think that's just his way of making sure he's got a nice, deep roster of people going right into consulting for McKinsey. Don't worry. And I'm glad that's where you didn't end up. I'm glad. All right. So my last question for you, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. But my last question for you, and this is an interesting one for me because I wonder, having not necessarily gone through MBA, what do you think you learned more from? In what experience did you learn more? Owning a bunch of Jimmy Johns or going to Duke MBA? What do you think's been more?
Oh, not even in the same category. Restaurant, 100%. You got to learn the finance. You have to learn accounting. You got to be able to do tech support. I could Jimmy rig my HVAC back to working so well because I didn't want to pay those bills. I could today literally go up through the false ceiling and there's a little button on just the side.
A little reset guy.
You learn all kind. You sit down and have to negotiate with the HVAC guy who owns it that's 70. It's looking across at a 23-year-old. And this guy knows more than you. This guy knows how to, you learn so much more. But you learn it the hard way.
Right. That's
great sacrifice.
You learn it by having a sociopathic killer on your front lawn after a long shift. That's the way you learn it. And that's the way the restaurant industry brings us in.
And then you don't fire people like that again.
Right. You just sell that franchise and let the new owner assume the problem, right?
Yeah. That's what I learned.
Okay. Well, Matt, I think this is just the first of many talks because you are incredibly interesting and I love your takes on stuff and I'm super rooting for you, the team at ClearCOGS. And I'm so happy to have had you on. And I want to thank you for being such an open and awesome person with me throughout our friendship. We're really
rehabilitating you, Xavier. We're getting that cynicism and we're just chiseling it away.
Little by little, man. Little by little.
Love.
Dude, it's hard not to love those beautiful locks. I want to thank you also for not hiding them with a hat. You actually showed off that lustrous hair. Woo!
For you, of course. And by the way, it was a pleasure to be here. You are a lovely human being and like somebody that I look at and am inspired by as being able to like literally fight through the mess that is restaurant technology. You know, we're all looking for success stories, and you certainly are one.
I appreciate that, man. Let's fight the mess together. Thanks for joining. Where can people find you before we hop off?
Find us on LinkedIn, clearcogs.com. Don't forget to get on the Restaurant AI podcast. If you're on Toast, we have a free offering on the Toast Marketplace. Go get yourself some free product. And yeah, you know, I'm around.
What's your next conference?
I'll be at FS Tech, then Global RLC in Barcelona.
What?
And then where else? The RFDC.
Okay.
I'm around.
Well,
the company sends me off places. They're like, Matt, go make friends and, you know, bring back some business.
Well, listen, the next time we hang, we're going to get some dinner. That's always one of my favorite parts of those shows. So thanks for joining us.
I feel like there's one thing I have to share with the audience.
Oh, please.
About you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Xavier is part Puerto Rican and part Basque. And right?
Yep.
If you could take two cultures and put them together, I mean, the Basque people are still up in the mountains, like fighting the Spanish, like they're not giving up. No one's told them. And then you throw a Puerto Rican on top, like it sums you up really well. And the moment you told me that, I'm like, I think the world needs to know this. It'll just make more sense.
Maddie, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I think...
But you have edit shop, so you can just cut that out.
No, listen, we don't edit anything here. I love Johan. You're the best. Johan's are essentially our all things editing and video. And I hope I make your life as easy as possible, Johan. But this is see that guy? So handsome. But anyway, you know, there's no editing on this show. We like it raw. Unless the health inspector's coming. Then it's gotta be
what is raw right now? My daughter's steak. So I got to go make some steak.
Go hit that. Happy birthday, Addie. Thanks for joining us. And Maddie, I will see you soon, brother. Thanks for joining the show.
You rock. See you, Zay.
See you, bro.
86 Reason Podcast was brought to you by Over Easy Office, outsourced bookkeeping solution.